Dennis, we are live, good sir.
Indeed, we are, and it's good to be here. Happy Monday, 425, everyone. Tonight is going to be another interesting show on Sneed's channel. He's prepared some delicious topics. Apparently, AT&T has a plan change. Can't wait to hear about that. The news that has broken internet and Twitter. Elon Musk buys Twitter.
Yeah.
And Verizon has been downgraded in the eyes of stakeholders.
Yeah, man. Okay, so the Twitter thing is not new. That was like teased last week. I think Elon made an offer, a formal offer last week, and I think board members and shareholders kind of scoffed at it at first. It looks like they ended up feeling like it was a good time to sell or whatever, but man, it goes to show you, man, this dude got money. Just straight up bought Twitter. I mean, there's a handful of apps / social media platforms of that magnitude, and he just bought one.
Yeah, hot take. Let's just get right into that while we wait for a moose sighting. Hot take on that topic real fast. I don't know how I feel about Twitter being owned by one mega billionaire. Elon's a cool dude. I know Starlink's a thing. We talk about Starlink being exciting and all that good stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I don't necessarily like one private entity just owning basically what has become a platform for so many people across so many countries to be able to say their mind, regardless of the man, regardless of what you think of him. I just don't like all that control being in the hands of one guy.
I think Barry might be onto something. Barry chimes in. He says Twitter earnings notice comes out on Thursday. It probably looks bad, and they probably realized, oh, this is the best time for us to sell.
Yeah, I know why they did it. Everything always comes down to money, but
Dennis, the company's not. It doesn't run well. Like, if you think about the future as the way it was structured or is structured currently without whatever Elon plans on doing, we have no idea. He might not do anything with it. He just may want to just own it.
I mean, he's a busy guy, and I'm sure he'll probably take a pretty hands-off approach and probably just he'll probably just hire someone else to kind of manage it for him. But because he is who he is, and there's clearly some polarization around it because politics, I don't think it's good for Twitter overall. I think they're going to lose a lot of talented personnel, which I think is bad. And I also just think that I don't know, man. I think that having Twitter be a public company with backlash from stockholders in mind was actually a good thing for that kind of platform to make them kind of stay on their toes and not let things get too crazy on that platform. You know what I mean?
I think the bigger issue is people thinking that he's going to be some kind of, I don't know, free speech vigilante.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the second coming of Jesus here when it comes to free speech. And that's my problem.
Yeah, but so what I think this boils down to is this. He is going to take over this company essentially. Is he going to come in and change a bunch of policies? Is he going to come in and change censorship? Is he going to come in and change the board? I think there are a couple smaller things that he could do to make the company better. Just to make them like a legitimate, just a solid company that can generate revenue and actually have growth. Because a lot of users have moved away from Twitter for whatever reason, and they've gone to other platforms to promote themselves, specifically Instagram, right? So, like, in my estimation, I view the Twitter company in terms of its like earnings and reach and all of that. It's kind of like the stepchild of social media. I mean, it's great for like fast updates and news, breaking stuff. I like it for that. But it's like everybody has moved towards Instagram.
Yeah,
there's a lot of TikTok users and there's a lot of Snapchat users. So like they have competitors that are doing the growth thing better than them.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to address a comment real quick. To anyone that thinks Elon's going to be the champion of free speech, I want you guys to actually look very closely at the things that Elon Musk was willing to do in order to get into China. remember what he tried to do. There's plenty of news articles that talk about the compromises that he has. China has a big sway, a big amount of influence over Elon because of his other more profitable businesses, which is why it's never great to have one specific entity that you can hold leverage over when it comes to business decisions. So, because I just see a lot of comments talking about how he's going to be this champion of free speech.
Well, I mean, that's what he's saying, you know. I think, Dennis, you're right. It's important to hold your reservations about what he's actually going to do. He may have good intentions, Dennis, but it's hard to shake some of the things that come with having these type of platforms.
Just remember, the road paved to hell was made out of good intentions.
Right. Yeah, that's a solid saying. It definitely holds true in a lot of instances. Yeah, I agree, Tech Guy 32. It's time will tell, for sure. Oh, we got a bomb. Santiago, thanks for the super sticker, buddy. Giant pear character waving flags and turning around, making the buildings in front of him tremble. Thanks, Santiago. Thanks, man. You're always so generous and supportive of us, man. Thanks for all that you do. Thank you so much, and glad to have you on the show and stopping by to tune in tonight. Incredible of you. Yeah, so I saw another comment. I think, let me see if I can figure out who it was. It may have been Alternate Reality. That's very possible, man. People with a lot of money, wealthy people, do some strange things with strange motives. It's very possible he looked at this like a chance to have, some type of thing. It's like a trophy.
I mean,
Like,
it
hey,
makes sense. Who owns the Wall Street Journal? What's his name?
I don't remember his name, but I know of the person you're speaking of.
Yeah, and remember, he tried running for office at the same time as well while he was at it. I mean, rich, powerful people do rich people things. I'm just saying, like, look, the only thing I'm getting at is literally it could be Jesus Christ himself, and I wouldn't feel great about one man having complete initiative to take a platform of this nature into any direction. I mean, people really don't like Facebook, right? Why do people really not like Facebook? Because Mark Zuckerberg is the ultimate decision maker regardless, right? And we don't like Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, it's policies, Dennis, I think, is the bigger problem. So, like, what are Elon's policies going to be? The same? Are they going to be different? Are we going to see the transparency that he's promising? That's one of the things he mentioned. Murdoch. That's right. Thanks, MS. The one of the things he offered was an outlook into the algorithm.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting. Now, if he did that, Dennis, if he legitimate, like, people could understand an algorithm that's used for social media, that's a game changer.
That would be great, but I want everyone to remember something. When a company is private, they can choose not to share literally anything with us. At least when Twitter was public, we got to see like earnings reports and see like, yes, Twitter was selling our information to make stuff. Elon could just lie and just say he's not doing that, and we wouldn't be any wiser because he has no requirements to share any of his earnings or how he's making money off the platform.
I know a lot of people were making some things out of this with Trump and all that. I don't think this has anything to do with Trump, nor do I think it even matters. I think this is just, I think it's just the fact that he made the purchase. They accepted his offer. He's coming out guns a-blazing, talking about freedom of speech. We'll see what Twitter is like a year from now. How long do you think it would take to actually change things at Twitter? Regardless, for good or for worse. How long do you think till we start to see changes?
I mean, if you really wanted to, like, seriously, if you really wanted to.
Like, could he do it tomorrow if he took over tonight?
I would say, like, maybe a month max.
You think a month? Okay.
I'm saying max a month if he really wanted to. I mean, I guess technically tomorrow, but the reason why I say not tomorrow is because depending on the changes that he wants to make, it's going to require some testing. So I'd say a month max.
Santiago's got some reservations. Should have remained public. I hope going private does not mean less accountability.
And that's exactly my issue. That's exactly the issue that I have with this type of platform. That is the exact issue that I have.
Interesting take. Oh, snap. We got a super chat from Blind Tech Adventures. Up in the ante here. Thanks. I appreciate it, Nimmer. Great cast as always. Thank you for all you do. No, thank you, man. Thanks for all your support and always being here, on the podcast and the live stream and making this thing awesome. I love doing the podcast. I know you guys watch all my videos. I know you guys see my speed testing videos, all the news coverage, but legit, the podcast is special to me. I love the podcast. And the engagement I get with you guys is always so enjoyable. I try to read all your, comments and the live chat, and it's always fun, and I enjoy it very much. Don't you think,
Also,
Dennis, the best part of the channels, the podcast, man?
100% agree.
Yeah,
The podcast format just allows for so many things to be talked about that you can't necessarily fit into like a episodic 15-minute like soundbite, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Side note, Chuck touched on something. So the people that were saying like who really cared about free speech and stuff like that. I mean, there's other platforms out there. There's Trump's Truth Social. There's the actual thing that True Social was based off of that they literally just plagiarized. That was an open source social media website. So there's other solutions out there that if you feel more confident with one man owning, there's your answer. No one forces anybody to use Twitter. You know what I'm saying? But I think that Twitter, despite being the stepchild, as you called it, I think it had an important part. It was one of the few companies that didn't have its tentacles owned by Facebook and its megacorp. And it was also one of the few publicly owned platforms that was available on the internet. So,
man, the live chat tonight is absolutely tremendous. You guys are killing it tonight. I'm reading all these comments. Okay, so here's some of them, Dennis. Really good stuff too. Barry chimes in. Twitter needs to pivot. It is still 100%. Just by Elon buying it brings a buzz to the platform, regardless of what ends up happening, whether it's early, late. Dennis, you're saying within a month. There's buzz, a buzz that hasn't been there in like 2, 3 years, if not longer. And part of the problem, I spoke to it earlier, I feel very strongly. The board at Twitter is toxic trash. It is hot garbage. These are people that don't use Twitter, so they're not power users. They're not really invested in the success of Twitter the way it should be. For example, if someone owns a business, they need to be the face of the franchise. When you go to my dad's bakery, you can speak to, meet, eat with my dad. Like when you call, you can speak to my dad. There's a connection to it. Twitter has no face to the franchise. They have no connections. The board, they don't even have Twitter accounts, bro. How is that possible? He is the absolute best thing that could happen to Twitter from that respect. The guy loves Twitter. You know what Elon is like with this whole Twitter thing? For those of you out there that have listened to Kanye West music over the last 20 years, he always had a thing for Kim Kardashian. It was all over the music. So many of his different songs, he would mention Kardashian, Kim Kardashian. He was so infatuated with it. That's what Elon was having, this thing for Twitter. It was his Kim Kardashian, i.e., with Kanye West. Seriously. He had this infatuation for it, and he finally got it. It's like his trophy. And that's why I'm saying I don't know what he does. I don't even know what he plans on doing or if he's gonna do anything. But at least it's a face to the franchise.
hey, so Sneed, one of my friends who I used to work with is actually watching the show for the first time. So I just want to say welcome to you, Ben.
Hey,
Uh,
big shout out to Dennis's friend.
yeah, his name's Ben, and
Ben, my
he
dude.
he sent a text. He didn't put in the live comments, but I'm just gonna read what he said because I thought it was funny. He said free speech quotation marks until he shuts down that kid who's tracking all of his flights.
That's right.
But anywho, this topic's very heated. I know you don't like it when we talk about politics, and honestly, I feel like how people are gonna stand is really gonna go down party lines for the most part.
I don't really see this too much as a political thing. I only take it from face value. So I had no problem discussing it. You know me, Dennis. I'm an apolitical person, and I simply see it as a transaction of a businessman. I don't think it's anything more than that. People may try to skew it one way or the other, but honestly, man, I think this is good for the company because the company wasn't doing well.
Yeah, it might be good for the company. I just don't know if it's going to be good for the public as a whole. Like,
Sure.
I'll just
Yep.
say this: in an ideal world, if Dennis had his way, there would be like a board of directors who all had equal influence, kind of like democracy vote style. And like one person would be from the US, one person would be from Canada, one person would be from like the UK, France, etc. And every time there was like a policy change, there'd be votes within mind, and it'd be like a, as you touched on, a semi youngish enough group that understands how social media works. And as far as like moderation goes, um for a platform like Twitter, I actually think that, to be honest, I actually think moderation was rather lacking if you think about it. I mean, I know this doesn't get talked about much, but cyberbullying is a real thing, and I feel like all social media companies do a pretty bad job at dealing with that. Same thing with like harassment and other issues that can be presented in this modern connected world that we live in. Also, the spreading of misinformation is a real problem as well. And I feel like there was so many things that could have been like worked on and touched on. And I feel like smart AI could have been used to also kind of compensate and help for it. On the topic of AI, like I know Google doesn't do the best job in the world. I mean, just look at the YouTube comments recently. Every time we get like a bot posting
Yeah,
stuff, but
right.
like bots were a real issue on Twitter as well that like really honestly needed to be addressed. I mean, governments use social media for malicious purposes, and sometimes removing and deleting posts is also an important part to ensure that actually people can share their ideas or do whatever it is that they wanted on Twitter in a safe, reliable manner.
Do I see Elon making changes? I think first he has to provide the edit button. Provide how many edits have been made to a tweet and then at what time, so it's a timestamp.
But
Or
hey,
or extend the tweet character so you can include the edited version of the tweet.
and you don't have to pay for it too, because that's actually a paid feature, believe it or not. But hey, the man that we've been waiting for and kind of stalling for has finally arrived. The legend himself,
Oh, snap.
Moose.
It's Monday Madness with Moose. That is the unofficial Monday edition of the show.
You guys are funny, man.
No, we were actually waiting for you, but let's address MS comment and we'll explain why we're waiting for you, Moose.
Love
So MS, thank you for the generosity. He says he may want his legacy free speech to be a statesman. I think he's referring to Elon Musk wanting to become a politician.
Right.
But anywho, changing gears onto something that we actually talk about more frequently. Let's talk about the AT&T plan changes.
Oh, snitted app. The first thing actually I pulled up, Dennis, was the drone thing. Can we start with the drone thing?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. Moose will get a kick out of this one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me do a screen share here, and then we'll discuss the news from T-Mobile. All right, so T-Mobile has inked a partnership, and that partnership is with Cisco, and they will be providing connectivity for drones. The drones are used for washing windows, cleaning windows on high-rise buildings and skyscrapers, and other cleaning applications. So Lucid Drone Technologies with T-Mobile's IoT connectivity with a spraying drone fleet. All right, one of the things that's important to note here, the shocking thing about this story is the fact that this is not going to be 5G connected devices. I'm shocked. The reason I'm shocked is because everything for the future is about 5G connectivity and 5G use cases. Drones are a 5G use case. 5G offers lower latency, more bandwidth, more responsiveness, all these incredible next generation technologies, things that an LTE core can't provide. Why in the world are we doing drones through 4G LTE for an enterprise use case? So while I love this deal for T-Mobile, I'm glad that they got this partnership. I'm confused as to why they're going with an LTE set of connected devices. The latency, reliability, all those advantages are on 5G. Why are we starting here with 4G LTE? I'm shocked. I'm like thinking to myself, here is the 5G company, 5G leadership, and they're going to be selling LTE connectivity for drones. So it's good and bad. There's two sides to this. The pro for T-Mobile is they're inking deals. The con is that they're providing an LT connection. I don't get it. Where are you at with this, Moose?
It goes back to the whole Stephen A. Smith comment about Kyrie this morning.
Oh,
I'm gonna be calling in a lifeline here. Stephen A. said that Kyrie should not be hired more than a year-to-year contract because there's no guarantee that he'll show up to work. What this means to me is that there is no guarantee T-Mobile's 5G works. There is no what's called security on it. There's no stability on it. There's no confidence on it. I don't know how else to say it, but basically, the contract didn't trust T-Mobile's 5G.
You think that's what it is, Moose?
I mean, come on, man.
You know what I
Unless
initially thought it was?
Yeah.
Initially, I thought it was they just have, legacy drones that don't have 5G radios. But do you think it's T-Mobile providing the modem tech and
No. They're not providing the modem tech. There's definitely drones that are 5G capable. The problem is that clearly that company doesn't want to use them, or because they're too expensive, or once again, it goes back to the reliability.
There's no way that T-Mobile's LTE is more reliable than their 5G.
Oh, Sneed. Those are some bold words.
Oh, what do you got to say, Dennis? Go ahead, man.
Well, okay, so I don't want to get too hard on T-Mobile here because I feel like I've gotten a reputation for that. But I'll just say this. While T-Mobile's 5G has gotten better in Pittsburgh, their 5G experience overall is pretty inconsistent at best, depending on location in which it's being utilized. I mean, we've seen some pretty big issues with NR71 as far as actual range for that low band frequency. We've seen some interesting issues when it comes to N41, both from a performance standpoint as well as the degradation in performance over range, as well as sometimes just issues with just actually being able to connect to N41 in general. Whereas your typical LTE bands, your bands 2, your 4s, your 66s and 12s of the world, even if they don't have as much capacity, even if the latency is higher on LTE side versus like the best case scenario for 5G, it's definitely a more stable experience. The coverage is there, and for the intents and purposes of what this drone is, might be the better option overall, especially if these drones that are being made have support for other bands that when these companies buy them might be able to be utilized for, say, other roaming partners that T-Mobile might have in given areas.
So you're hoping for future upgradability, next generation technologies being better, different, more capable?
I'm saying that T-Mobile's 5G, despite it being about 3 years deep, does not nearly have the amount of optimization and consistency and performance as its LTE network does, for better or for worse. And by that I mean, and you've seen it before, Sneed, you've got sites where you're getting 700 meg plus, and other sites where you're struggling to get 100 plus and heavy packet loss on 5G.
I think that's the problem. It's those things, the packet loss, the latency, those things have to be non-negotiable.
And we're not there yet.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's gotta get better. That's for sure. I agree with Dennis. All right. Fair enough. I think that's a fair assessment, fair evaluation. I think you gave him a fair shake. I don't see anything wrong with that. The next story we wanted to cover, did you guys want to do this?
Yes, I Google searched it, and I'm actually more excited than I think you would think I would be about this. So,
really?
Yes. AT&T made 2 major changes to their unlimited elite plan. And the one change that I think is totally just absolutely insane is the roaming in Latin America. Specifically, AT&T is giving unlimited calling, already included when you roam in Latin America, unlimited high-speed data, including 5G,
Oh yeah, keep going.
and unlimited texting when roaming across all of Latin America.
That's right. I think Dennis covered pretty much every update here. And all of it comes at no extra cost.
Yes.
Everything that Dennis described were changes made to the AT&T unlimited plan. If you guys have ever heard of the unlimited elite plan. So this is AT&T's highest tier plan. You know, you're getting tons of mobile hotspot. You're getting the highest available QCI, secure 5G, unlimited text and data, all that stuff. Now they're going to give you an additional 19 Latin American countries included in the plan. For those of you that do business in the Latin American countries or you plan on vacationing, this is a huge added value, man. You know, like, let's take a look at this. Here are the countries that are listed: Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru. What else is in there? Is that Suriname? Uruguay, Venezuela, Caracas, bro. They're going to give you coverage in Caracas. You feel me?
I'm telling you, keep going. Just keep going. I'm just smiling at this one.
Bro, it's phenomenal. This is such a huge value. Here's the countries listed: 7 in Central America, 12 in South America. Just so you guys know, to learn more, May 3rd. It looks like that's going to be when this kind of comes into effect. I don't think anyone else in the industry has any type of comparable plan, Moose. Is this right?
So just to put it out there, current plans, there's no comparison to current plans. The only plan that is exactly like this is the old T-Mobile One Plus International and Military International that you had to add on the $40 add-on, and then you get unlimited, no 2G speed,
25 Moose.
Or 25, yeah, 25.
Yeah.
No 2G speed, no 3G speed. It's all full throttle, that plan from T-Mobile.
You're
But
wrong.
this one,
You're wrong, Moose. It's
which one
not
is
even well, I'm saying that's not even the same because T-Mobile still charge you on a per minute basis for calling.
Ooh, damn. Even so, yeah, Sneed, this is even, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but
Thank
that
you.
plan hasn't been offered for years.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah.
You know, so there's nothing in the industry. Like, no joke, I don't even know what T-Mobile offers for high speed. I know they offer 2G speeds. I don't even know what
3G.
speed.
They offer 3G now. So the speeds that T-Mobile offers are, I believe, 256 kilobits per second, which technically is 3G speeds, unlimited texting in 100 or 210 places, and the calling's on a minute by minute basis.
Wait a minute,
However,
3G speeds they classify as 600 kbps. This one's 256.
that's what T-Mobile calls it, is 3G speeds.
Oh, sheesh, man. So 128 is 2G speeds?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, man.
But that is the closest thing that T-Mobile's offers. And then they have their add-ons, but like it's like $30 for like 5 gigabytes of high-speed data. So like it's not very comparable. Honestly, this plan is in a league of its own. If you want to travel basically anywhere that's on this continent or South America, AT&T is your guy. And the reason why I'm saying this so huge is because there was some people commenting like, if you don't travel, is this actually a feature? And the answer is yes, because America has a very large and growing Latina population, and I would say it's fair to say that South America and its role within the world is becoming more and more of a popular tourist destination for a lot of people, as well as the fact that a lot of businesses are actually starting to kind of actually crop up down there. So being able to be connected, being able to basically make this plan a smaller, more modernized version, this is the right step in the right direction. And AT&T is the first to make that happen. I mean, we talked about this on the show before about how I wish, traveling between countries is like traveling between states. And the one that's coming closest to this right now is AT&T. Hopefully in the future, AT&T continues to expand upon this and we see even more friendly roaming happen across much of Europe. But I think this is a very positive first step.
Verizon's plan is trash. Their day pass is so bad. It's so expensive and you get so little value. I mean, what do they include? A half a gig of data per day?
They give you unlimited calling, unlimited texting, and a half gig of high-speed data, and then throw all the 2G speeds thereafter for $10 per day, except for in Canada and Mexico where it's $5 per day.
Yeah, it's awful. God. That is terrible. And so I don't like what T-Mobile offers, and I don't like what Verizon offers. At least Verizon will give you speed, but it's expensive. AT&T is the worldwide carrier, if there is one. Closest thing to a worldwide carrier.
Honestly, Sneed, T-Mobile's offering for the longest time wasn't bad. Unlimited texting is great. The data, while slow, will work for the basics.
Yeah, but you're not using your phone like you normally would.
Fair.
You get what that's why I'm saying like AT&T is offering you the ability to take your phone wherever you want to go in Latin America and use it the same way you would use it domestically.
Yeah, there's one other thing that I really appreciate about AT&T's as well. And I don't know if we address this, but hotspot use comes out of your same data bucket. So you have 40 gigs of hotspot to use as you please while you're down there.
Yeah.
Which is even more massive if you think about it.
You know that one of the things that I was telling Sneed a couple hours ago before the podcast was the only thing that Randall Stevenson, the guy that I cannot believe I'm about to say this, and Sneed knows what I'm about to say. This is stupid what I'm about to say, but it's true now. He predicted several years ago that AT&T would be one of the 5 global carriers in the sense that your one SIM card or one phone line with that company could essentially travel the entire global network, right? Any carrier, very cheap, the roaming, or in this case, extremely free, right? One of the things that I liked about this, right, was obviously let me step back. There were some exclusions that I didn't like, right? Dominican Republic, DR, right, is not included in this list. Huge country for vacationing. And, those DR people, man, they're funny people, man. I love those people.
Yeah, good people, bro.
Those guys, man. Definitely, I'm pretty sure, that was probably something still to be negotiated. Who knows what the case may be, right? Of DR.
Got to get Cuba in there too, dog.
Yeah, Cuba, right? Cuba, Trinidad, Tobago, right? Bermuda, all these Caribbeans. One of the things that I'm thinking is this could be step 1, Dennis, right? Because step 2, because step 1 was the $10 international day pass caps at 10 days. So if you go in the beginning of the month and your cycle still has 20 days left, then you effectively, for the rest of the 30 days or 20 days or whatever, you only pay those 10 days.
Yeah, it's definitely better than what Verizon was doing with their day passes. That's for sure. Like I said, I think it's a good step in the right direction. And I do hope that AT&T furthers expanding it, both to cover the rest of the missing countries that are here in South America and North America, if any. And I also hope that they can expand it out into much of Europe, ideally.
Oh, yeah. I think
one could argue that the European deals, the agreements would likely be easier to obtain. Those networks are much more mature.
Yeah.
AT&T could probably strike those deals pretty easily. I just think it's just in due time. You know, they've shored up Latin America. Time to shore up Europe.
Hey, you know how we always talk about what would make you switch, Sneed, on the show?
Yeah.
I think, and this is just my hot take here, I think that AT&T, because of this plan change, ends up snatching a ton of T-Mobile customers, specifically a lot of T-Mobile customers that were residing in like Florida and other southern states.
Now be careful, Dennis. Be careful with this because pricing matters here.
Hear me out. Hear me out. I'll explain my rationale. But I think they'll touch a lot of customers that are down in Florida and other southern states because a lot of people that moved to Florida actually did come from places like Cuba and South America. And then as far as the pricing goes, one, AT&T Elite is pretty comparable to T-Mobile. In fact, actually cheaper than T-Mobile.
Keep going. I love it.
Because T-Mobile on all of their Magenta plans actually requires you to pay an add-on to call from stateside down to these places in South America. And then also don't forget tons of discounts. I make a joke about it, but anyone that has a heartbeat can get a discount to get basically elite pricing down to extra. And don't also forget as well, but T-Mobile has been getting slightly more expensive. I mean, we've seen them starting charging more taxes and fees now on their add-ons, Netflix subsidies going up, lots of other small changes, and basically it makes it AT&T becomes a much more valuable and oftentimes probably cheaper in this case for those people when it comes to this use case because it's already included out the rip. You can call down there, and I don't think you have to pay anything, right, Moose?
Yeah, one of the things I did was see what the pricing, right? Like you mentioned, right? So if let's say there's no discount on AT&T, which is crazy because you can put an AARP and then boom, you're ready to go. It's $225 for 5 lines on Elite. T-Mobile's 5 lines.
I'm sorry, Moose.
No, go ahead.
Big shout out to Steven Smith. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate all the support for the channel.
5 lines on Magenta MAX, right? The latest and greatest is $200 on the website right now. No special discount. But like you mentioned, anybody with a heartbeat can put in the AARP discount and it goes to $175. But more and more people are going to have access to the 25% discount from the fiber, right? And that goes to $168.75 for the 5 lines of Elite because most people in this demographic are, 5+ lines on the account. It's a big account that's going to be switching over.
The average line cost is probably $20, Moose.
Yeah.
Once you count in the free lines, when they get the free 3rd line, the free 5th line.
Some
of these plans are older too. Those T-Mobile customers have had those legacy plans.
That's right. And one of the things that I've been asking around today was, are people actually going to be switching, or their family members or friends or whatever? One of the things that a lot of people said was the reason why I didn't switch was because they didn't include this feature or this add-on until now. So you're right, Dennis. I think just from 2019 numbers, about 7 to 8 million people travel to South and Central America per year based off of 2019 numbers from Statistica or whatever the hell, right? And just imagine if only 1 million of those folks switch. I think that AT&T just created a brand new 1 million or more area that they can get customers from T-Mobile. That's people's lunch and dinner right there in terms of that's T-Mobile's lunch and dinner, right? Hispanic market is very simple, very critical on price, and then they wanted the roaming because they travel. Now, yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to clarify real quick, Moose, and I tried pointing this out. You didn't account for the fact that even with Magenta MAX, they still have to pay for that $15 stateside international talk add-on for each line that they want to be able to call down in those places, which is why I said it's actually cheaper even without the discount. Yeah, this is massive. If AT&T can actually somehow manage to squeak out a deal with even more countries, especially in Europe, I promise you, we see a huge spike in growth, not only from your typical consumers, but this is the kind of change that makes businesses move business accounts over.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and
traveling.
by the way, business accounts are included. And I love this tech guy 32, man. He's always critical on this, but Mr. Tech Guy 32, even if you don't have access to fiber, right, or in an area that's going to get fiber anytime soon, put an AARP discount and you go significantly cheaper to 175 for the 5 lines. So again, it goes back to, like Dennis said, even if you have a heartbeat, you qualify for the damn discount.
I think people are pretty receptive of these plan additions. What do you think, Moose?
You know, I've been asking around my local community, right, which have a very diverse in terms of countries of origin, right? Brazilians, Argentinians, Uruguay people, Chileans, right, from Chile, Ecuadorians. All these folks from South America are like, I'm upgrading my plan from starter to elite just because this summer I'm going to go visit. Done. Dude, how many people do you think the first day that this thing went live, especially how many, you know, how Univision and all these Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, they start posting this thing?
Oh yeah,
Dude, it's
yeah,
done. Grassroots marketing on Hispanic is huge, right?
yeah.
Dude, they have been talking about this. They know that this was big. They're switching to the elite plan.
The value play is huge for them.
Yeah.
I mean, even as someone that doesn't travel frequently down into like South America, I still appreciate this change because I do have friends that actually do live in Mexico. Now, I know Mexico was already a thing, right? Like, I get that. But now, if I meet someone that isn't from Mexico and
Right.
lives in one of these South American countries, I could be like, here's my AT&T number. Just text me on that. Just call me on that. No problemo. No need to mess around with WhatsApp or anything else.
See,
It's a good change.
here's the thing here. Like alternate reality is saying,
Mhm.
it's really the best move whenever you go to another country for an extended period of time, meaning you go to an extended stay vacation, 3 weeks to a month, maybe a summer, right? Traveling or studying abroad. All these types of situations can arise. AT&T's plan is going to be second to none. Ideally, being able to go to a country and getting a local SIM and popping it into an unlocked global phone like an iPhone or a Google Pixel or what have you. The only issue there is some people would prefer, and I think most people would prefer, to just continue to use their device as it would be domestically. Not having to go to a shop, not having to track down a place that would sell a local SIM, and then being unfamiliar with the activation process. You're adding steps. I mean, we're literally talking about you just taking your phone. It stays with you on the plane, in your possession. You literally connect once you land. You're
And
on a native like experience.
And Sneed, to alternate reality's point, when I went to South Korea, I bought a local SIM there because I was staying there for a month. That's what I did. But I'll just say this: there's 2 downsides to that. One is now I'm not reachable at my actual number, which like my parents, for example, have. Right, that's a
Mhm.
problem. And 2, the secondary problem is I'm taking out my physical SIM. Now I have to keep it somewhere secure and hope not to lose it. Like, this is definitely a better experience, especially because I know you said you use VoIP-based apps, but like, let's be real here. When I'm communicating with my parents, God help them if they can figure out how to use Facebook Messenger, right?
Yeah.
It's texting. It's texting that happens. So, when I was abroad, my way of keeping in touch with them and letting them know I was safe was pop out my international SIM, pop in my old SIM on T-Mobile, text them, be like, yeah, I'm okay, yada yada, and then switch it back out. And sometimes too, don't forget too, but when you're abroad, you're still logging into a bunch of different international based services. And you kind of need your number to be active so you can receive those 2FA codes, because there's so many things that are tied in. Like, I know there was plenty of times when I was in South Korea where I was trying to use my credit card and it got flagged or something, and I have to go into the mobile app, and then when I try to sign into the mobile app, I'd have to get the 2FA code just to sign in. It's just easier to let your number go with you, and it's honestly cheaper too, because even in the case of South Korea, I still had to pay an additional like $60 for like a decent plan over there, and I had to go through all South Korea's like laws and everything like that to get a account, which can sometimes be tricky with some of those Southeastern Asian countries because a lot of them have basically it's the equivalent of a social, but it's not a social. It's like your state ID, and if you don't have it, it makes it sometimes challenging to even get a plan because prepaid, like we have here in the US, isn't necessarily as ubiquitous in Southeast Asian countries. So there's definitely challenges.
Hey, good stuff, guys. We got to carry on and close out the show on this last note.
We missed the second change, the active armor.
Oh, the security protections?
Yes. That one's big too.
I mean, it's a nice added feature. I know a lot of people care for the security and stuff, so that's definitely going to be appreciated by many.
Well, Sneed, you're underestimating here. We got the public Wi-Fi protection, so basically VPN.
Right.
We got the identity monitoring, the improved enhanced caller ID, the safe browsing, the spam blocker. I mean, it's basically like Scam Shield, but on steroids.
Yeah, I think it's a better package than Scam Shield. And people tell me that Scam Shield doesn't even work.
Yeah, it's pretty garbage. It honestly blocks legitimate calls and lets so many other ones just come on through.
Makes no sense. People complain about it all the time on my videos. You know, they're like, "Oh man, I got this new security feature from T-Mobile and it's not really stopping anything. I'm still getting the texts, I'm still getting the calls." And I don't know what we can actually do at this point. The number of scam calls that come in is just absolutely absurd. It's gotten to the point where if I don't know the number, I don't even bother anymore. You know, leave a message, identify yourself or whatever.
I mean, I started getting random text messages from people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's scams and all that stuff, man. Yeah. Unreal. Hey guys.
So just the TLDR is the Call Protect and the security app. I forgot what the security app is called at this time, but both of them got integrated just into one. It's going to be a lot easier for a lot of people, right, to download it or to have it updated or just even turn it on. Again, very secure app in terms of like if you. Oh, and by the way, it's for the second version of the. How do I say this? So there's extra benefits if you're an extra or elite customer, right? You can track your social security number, passport, blah, 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 like all these different things that just identify like if you've been hacked in the past or future or present, right? But yeah, anything like this is good to see. Clearly better than T-Mobile because damn, not even they can prevent their source code from being, not hacked. But I'm still salty about it, man. I'm still like Dennis. I can't believe that it happened, but whatever.
All right,
but let's touch on the last topic of the night, which is Verizon.
Let's get to the screen sharing here. All right, so this story, Moose, me, you, and Tyrone were on this all day.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more than I wanted to be, but, here's the thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, like, investors and sentiments and news flows, like, no doubt the common investor is a total flake. The smallest little blip on the radar causes them to react. Just the slightest thing makes them emotional and forces them to either buy or sell a stock based on some infinitesimal amount of information that may have come out. Now, here's the thing. Literally 1 year ago, I think just slightly over a year ago, it was like 15 months ago, Verizon's share price was down to like $49.80. Today, it is that price. A week ago, it was $55. Right? I just want to say this. I don't care about any of these companies. They do nothing for me. They could care less if I live or die. When it comes to these companies, there are ebbs and flows to these stocks. I remember just a few months ago, I swear, I'm like T-Mobile is like $100, was like $97. Today it's $130. I remember when AT&T was, $19 pre-spinoff, right? And then it bumped and then it's back down. The share prices fluctuate like when it comes to stock pricing. Verizon is coming off of its historically bad quarters. It always has a bad Q1. This is the same thing every year. It is crucial that nobody overreacts. If you like Verizon's business model and you've invested in them, you're not going to sell your stock. You're not going to sell your shares because they had a bad Q1. They have a bad Q1 every year. You would be stupid to sell it at its lowest point. Sell them after, if you have to sell them, your shares, sell them after their best quarters, which are typically, Q3 and Q4. So, don't be irrational. Don't be emotional. Make a good decision. So this heading here, Goldman Sachs downgrades Verizon on valuation following big subscriber loss. Why is Goldman Sachs downgrading Verizon after their historical precedence of always having a bad quarter one? They always have a bad quarter one where they either lose subscribers on the consumer wireless side or they gain very few. Meanwhile, they still maintain excellent wholesale revenue and sales with Comcast, right, with Xfinity Mobile and Spectrum Mobile. Their wholesale seems to be doing well. Their fixed wireless ads were almost 200,000, which T-Mobile, they just had their first 300 plus thousand quarter. Verizon's probably going to have that next quarter. You could put it on the record. Verizon is going to add over 300,000 fixed wireless subs in Q2. I think that's a foregone conclusion. And that's not even opening it up to the entire country. That's still top 46 PAs. So in my estimation, if you don't like the Verizon stock, fine. But you're not selling it off of a bad Q1. They always have a bad Q1. If you think they have a lot of debt, well, yeah, but they had a lot of debt a quarter ago. Why is it now make or break when they had exactly what they always have for Q1? You get what I'm saying, Moose?
I get what you're saying, Sneed.
Yeah.
And the last thing I will say, Moose, we have talked about this extensively. AT&T is extremely undervalued. If Verizon is trading at $50+, why is AT&T trading at $19?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Name two companies that have a bigger moat than Verizon and AT&T.
So we were talking about it earlier, and I agree, right? A lot of fixed wireless will happen for Verizon and T-Mobile throughout this year. But I think the biggest shock was for the investors and the analysts was their guidance changed so quickly from Investor Day to Friday when they reported earnings. That was the one massive red flag. The second red flag was obviously they're not doing anything to grow their consumer business, right? And then secondly to that, if they're banking on the fact that the fixed wireless will save them, remember it's a low ARPU product than regular smartphones, so they have to be very careful on the economics. I think that Verizon is in a very nasty situation.
I disagree with you, Moose. I disagree with you actually 100% on this, and I feel sick having to. But touching on Sneed's point, there's ebbs and flows throughout a business's lifespan. And right now, at this current present moment in time, Verizon's current and only focus is deploy 5G, improve infrastructure. That's where all the money's going. Right now is not really a growth focused period for Verizon, nor should it be. And honestly, as far as the consumer wireless cell phone space goes, I touched on this before, but there's really no growth to be had. It's just steal customers from the other. And I think what Verizon's doing at the moment is actually a smarter move. Say whatever you want. You know how I feel about fixed wireless. I think at the moment that is actually the growth opportunity for Verizon specifically because they don't have a very large Fios footprint. So that's going to be their moneymaker, kind of like how T-Mobile's fixed wireless was. AT&T has their fiber product, and it's more expansive than Verizon is on the consumer-facing side. and AT&T also doesn't have 5G deployed at the level that Verizon does. So they're kind of in a moment right now while they've been waiting to just focus on growth, to spend that money on the aggressive promotions to try to lock in a few extra customers or retain loyalty. But Verizon, they've been very aggressive about getting the C-band out there. They want to keep their market dominance as being well known as the market leader in coverage and network connectivity. And I feel like it's a strategy that's worked for them in the past. I think it's going to work for them again in the future, because the new opportunities, the ones that are actually going to make a lot of money, the things that can actually be monetized that wouldn't have been done in the LTE era, are going to require a strong, reliable 5G network. So I think what Verizon's doing makes sense. I think Goldman Sachs and other investors are being short-sighted. Verizon isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon. They're doing what makes sense for this given time period, since they finally have the ability now to actually deploy C-band at the fastest possible measure that they can muster.
All right, so here's the math. Verizon has, I think, 147 million connections. So Verizon could have zero growth for the next 15 years and still have more customers than AT&T and still have more customers than T-Mobile, to show you how many customers they have. And there's a number of reasons why. Number one, their network was always better. People knew it, and they stuck with them. Their retention is high. People stick with them. They don't really leave the company often. The other thing is they consumed a lot of companies too. They took all the Alltel customers, all those regional acquisitions. They took all those customers. So they're a huge postpaid subscriber base. And, they they feel like they don't want to compete for customers. They'll just keep the ones that they have, upsell them to more premium offers, get as many subscribers for the fixed wireless. And if they add 300,000 a quarter for the next 5 years, for the next 4 years, they will gladly take that, right? 4 years and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about 1+ million subs a year for the next 5 years. So they'll gladly take that 5 or 6 million customers and add them to their pre-existing, because those customers are going to be paying 40, 50, 60 bucks at the end of the day, adding to their ARPU. And of course, they're going to have them for wireless in most instances, because they'll give them a discount if they, transition over. And it's going to work for them. That's their business model. Unless, and Moose, we speculated on this,
Mm-hmm.
unless the board, shareholders said enough is enough with this Hans guy. We don't like the vision. We need a pivot. But that move, Moose, would be huge. It would be monumental. And
Well,
plus, who's at
yeah,
the company right now that could
nobody.
potentially create a U-turn?
No. Now, I shall remind folks, AT&T did this exact same strategy as well, right? 2016, 2017, 2018, to upsell your customers to higher data plans, right? The two options that they had, right, under John, I forgot the other John guy, but the
Donovan.
old guy. Yeah, Donovan, that's right. Donovan, okay, they tried to do this exact same thing and it didn't work. The investors were pissed because you were losing share to other competitors. And by the way, at the time, Spectrum Mobile and Xfinity Mobile weren't as big. So this is a totally different situation in terms of even more competition, right? The only thing I can say is Verizon has to be extremely nervous because Roman should have stayed. He was the heir apparent. He could have been the only guy that could have turned this ship around, in my opinion. I don't know, Sneed. I mean, there's a lot to talk about on this one. I mean, I'm very nervous for Verizon.
Internally, I think they view the MVNO thing with Spectrum and, like Spectrum Mobile and Xfinity
Mhm.
Mobile. I think Verizon looks at it as a great win, and I'll explain why. Verizon does not want to serve customers that don't bring them a high ARPU. Like, they would love to sell you the network, but they don't want to serve you in customer care. Like, they don't want to take the time to deal with your activations, to deal with your connectivity issues with your phone. They don't want to do that. If you don't have their postpaid, if they're not getting the full ARPU from you, they would rather you have to deal with another company that just uses their network as a service. So I think Verizon is completely content if they added 200,000 or 300,000 MVNO lines a quarter with the other guys and let them, the thing about like Spectrum Mobile and Xfinity Mobile, the ARPU for those MVNO companies, it's not like they own the network, so they're not making the money like Verizon is or AT&T or T-Mobile, right? The profitability is a little bit lower, but those companies are using it as a sticky point to keep you on their expensive ass fiber or their expensive cable, and their TV packages, which, I mean, come on, man. TV and cable, I think the average price is now approaching $180. So
I don't know if it's that high, but I will
last
say
I checked, Dennis, it was $174.
Well, I will just say this, Sneed. You hit the nail on the head. Verizon, when it comes to if Verizon loses a customer to Xfinity or Spectrum, they didn't lose any ARPU like at all because Xfinity and Spectrum are basically paying the same as postpaid customers when it comes to accessing that data to the point where they're sometimes selling at a loss. So
Moose, does Verizon still view a customer service call as $25 to $30 a call?
It's expensive. It's expensive. Sometimes if it's a US based call center, it could be even higher. And I know that we have some in Kentucky. By the way, great state of Kentucky. Missed the barbecue, man.
Bluegrass.
Oh yeah, love that place, man. But yeah, it's expensive, Sneed. Expensive. Even the Philippines and India is getting expensive too, man. Inflation, 8.5%. I'll remind everybody to the day I die.
So the way I see kind of Verizon playing this is, hey, let somebody else serve you. Enjoy our network as you may. And we'll take that $30 or whatever the cost is, whatever they generate from it. I don't know. $20, 25. I don't know. Whatever it is. And Verizon will gladly take it. Say, hey, enjoy the network.
Also, I think we should highlight something important that I feel like always needs to be reminded. But what makes stockholder or shareholders happy and the stock market happy doesn't necessarily equal good for the company. Like this strategy, while it might not be a growth strategy in the sense of more subscribers, does not mean that Verizon won't make more money, won't get deeper relationships with their current subscriber base, and possibly also make them more loyal. I mean, basically, the way I look at Verizon's strategy is essentially what cable has been doing for God knows how long. Cable has not expanded their footprint for years in any meaningful sense, and yet year over year we see growth. They get more revenue, they get more profitable every single year, and stock investors are happy. When Verizon tries to do the same thing, stock investors are suddenly upset. Why? Because it's different to the wireless industry as a whole. It makes no sense. So I think what Verizon's doing makes sense for now. Focus all the CapEx spending on the network, and then all of the rest of your problems will be solved and follow suit. Moose, you got thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm shocked. See, this is, and I go back to the conversation we had a couple of podcasts ago in the series of this month, right? Where cable has been this like fat and totally out of shape, ridiculous monstrosity that it is. And they never thought, hey, we should innovate. We should start deploying more fiber since we got it in some places, right? We should start improving our network and making sure that people don't just leave us for the competition. It's happening all over the place. It's going to continue happening. People are upset with these folks because they've never got the hint. I think that right now, if you're a Spectrum or Xfinity or whatever cable customer, you call that customer service number and you demand cheaper rates, because if not, you can go to a fixed wireless solution. You have that ability now. Before, you weren't able to. They didn't even know what fixed wireless was. The rep was like, what are you talking about? Right now they're on notice. And you're right, Dennis, that it's ridiculous that even today they're still deploying copper when they should be deploying fiber to brand new homes.
That was kind of not the point I was going for, Moose, if I wasn't clear. My point more so was the fact that cable doesn't play for growth, really. They focus on ARPU. They've always focused on ARPU.
Or they want to bury their competitors, so they may temporarily drop pricing, right?
Right. They'll do it to bury a competitor, but at the end of the day, they always focus on ARPU and doing whatever they can to make sure you have multiple products with them, because statistically speaking, the more products you have with their company, the less likely you are to switch.
Yeah.
And I see what Verizon is doing as basically a page out of that book, is what I'm trying to say. Their way of getting you deeper is, we got your phones. Let's give you your internet either through Fios or the fixed wireless. Let's get you some smart devices. Let's price our smart devices very lucratively. Make these really lucrative smartwatch deals. Let's get the partnerships with Apple, right? Be on Apple stage, be the presence. Let's get you to be on our network in this way and just keep you there and raise your costs. We don't need extra growth. We're already making plenty of money. We have a very solid, stable market share at the moment. And what we really need right now, actually, to maintain growth, if Verizon wanted it, is more capacity on the network. Even if Verizon wanted to lower their pricing down to some crazy competitive rate, this is my hot take here, but I don't think they actually have the network ready to handle too many more subscribers. There's plenty of areas where Verizon only had band 66 and band 13 cell sites where it was pretty congested, to be perfectly blunt. Verizon needs to just focus on the network at this moment, focus on C-band deployment, focus on mmWave, and just let that ride out, get on the 5G core, and then everything else that Verizon needs will be fixed once they have their network upgrades completed to about 80% done.
Just as a follow-up to that, Dennis, I will say I've never seen a carrier upgrading towers as fast as Verizon. I've never seen anything like this before. They're literally going to have Cleveland finished probably by the end of the year. The entire city and the surrounding area. It is incredible. They're actually upgrading faster than band 66, which I don't know if you can recall back then. It was probably like 2013-ish, 14. They essentially did it in 3 years. So like they're going to do this again, which is incredible because this grid is supposed to be tighter. But regardless, and actually I would say that this fiber is going to be more costly too, so but to get to James' point here, Sneed, can you please talk about the millimeter wave strategy of Verizon? There's a mixed bag here. As per Mike Dano, it looks like Verizon's not focusing on it anymore. That's completely false. Verizon continues to have dedicated dollars and dedicated build for the millimeter wave. Year 1, they installed 17,000 nodes. Year 2, they installed 14,000. They are committed to upgrading at a rate of 12 to 15,000 nodes every year, and they have not indicated that they plan on slowing down. How Mike Dano feels about that, I'm not sure how he's interpreting the situation. Just because Verizon is dumping money into C-band doesn't mean they're not dumping money into millimeter wave. They just understand that the C-band is more crucial to scaling network capacity as opposed to leveraging millimeter wave within situations where they can offload or they need extreme capacity. Right? So we don't view C-band as situational. It's a macro band. Millimeter wave is situational. It's fixed wireless, premium experience. It's those things, and look, very few are as connected in wireless as Mike Dano, but his take on that, if that is still his take to this day, I don't know. That's his interpretation, and I definitely don't agree with it.
Well, Sneed, I will just say, I think it's fair to say that Verizon's focus or impact on millimeter wave is not as much as the highlight as it was now that they actually got meaningful amounts of C-band.
But what's the difference between 17,000 nodes for the first year, 14, 15,000 year 2, and then 12 to 15,000 year 3? To me, that doesn't mean they're de-emphasizing it. To me, it just means they have they've caught their groove.
Fair.
There's not even a single carrier that's approaching 50% of that pace. In fact, I think combined T-Mobile and AT&T don't have 50% of the Verizon millimeter wave nodes.
That's fair.
So I'm not sure what the comparison is here. I don't know what the benchmark is, but I mean, AT&T is strategically using millimeter wave. T-Mobile is painstakingly using millimeter wave. It's like pulling teeth. So I'm not sure what he means by that. You know what I mean? I don't know his take really. Let me get to some of these super chats because they came in while we were discussing some things here. Big shout out to Rubes. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for supporting. Verizon does the slapping. Verizon Apple event boss move. Great content, amigos. Thank you, man. I do remember Hans with the now and later Gators, man. I do. And Santiago with another super chat. Thanks, man. I know several people switching to Spectrum and Xfinity because they know they also use Verizon. These are mainstream people not into tech. It tells me Verizon has to learn to adapt to this situation. I feel like they're perfectly content just being the leaser of the network. Just lease it, essentially give people space on it, and who wants it can have it, and I mean, it makes sense, right? Like Verizon wants to maintain ARPU. If they can't have those customers because they'd be losing them to a competitor, then at least you're returning some money, even if it's not the most optimized profit.
Quick hot take on this real fast, Sneed. I feel like if Verizon really could have their way, they would shut down every single one of their retail locations at the snap of a hat, and they would honestly close down their call centers and just let other companies sell their services. I think that they would save so much more money just by doing that and literally just going wholesale, kind of like how we talked about what Dish wanted to do, versus trying to actually be their own first party company, because the retail footprint is explosively expensive. And think about all the redundant employees that you need, even for store locations that might not necessarily be that profitable. I mean, why do you think T-Mobile and AT&T have so many third-party retail presence stores?
Yeah, I hear you. Nikki's got the calculation here. Currently 35,000 millimeter wave sites. By 2024, this should end up being at about 70 to 75K. And you know what's crazy, Nikki? Is T-Mobile doesn't even have 75,000 macros. And Verizon's going to have 75,000 millimeter wave nodes by 2024. And
Sneed,
people tell me that they're de-emphasizing millimeter wave.
Sneed, real quick, do you know how many macros each of the carriers has, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, it's all around like the 70, 80,000 mark.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Macros.
Yeah, no, that's
crazy,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that it's nuts. And, most of them are co-located, obviously. It only makes sense. But yeah, I'm not sure where, people thinking that millimeter wave took a back seat. Not really, man. It's being overshadowed by C-band because C-band is going to reach people faster. And it's got people excited, and I get it.
Question, Sneed.
Yeah.
It's a little off topic, but in order for the density to be there that we would want to see for like adequate mid-band coverage to be like perfect spread, good handoffs, and everything like that, how many macros do you think the carriers are going to need to bump themselves up to?
Man, I don't know, man. The tough part is rural America. It's the tower spacing out there. It's the 5G standalone is going to help. The taller sites help. The beam forming is going to help. There's a couple of things that can improve, some hardware stuff that happens on the tower level, some new technologies. There's some software tricks that can be done too. Honestly, the IAB, that's going to be a big piece too. And, like Verizon has already kind of talked about this with using C-band as backhaul in rural America where they don't have fiber. Do you know how big that is, Dennis?
I definitely understand it. It's not what I'd like to ideally see, but I understand.
There's no fiber out there.
I know.
So like this is literally the only option because microwave, like you might get 150 meg to a tower site. So millimeter wave as IAB or C-band as IAB is a game changer.
Well, this is my hot take. I think if any carrier wants to actually do it basically right, essentially we need to see their networks basically double in macros. So going from like 70,000 to 140,000, I think
Oh,
you're literally
man.
gonna have to double it.
Wow.
Because I mean, well, think about it for a second. With the low band world, generally speaking, especially when we start talking about rural America, towers end up being spaced like 3 to 5 miles apart, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And mid band just doesn't perform that way. There's a very heavy, steep drop off in performance from mid band when you start talking about those distances. In an ideal world, you would have your towers about no more than 2.5 miles apart. So if it's 5 miles apart right now, you're going to need an extra tower in every single one of those locations to get the range down and to improve coverage, capacity, and density to fill in those dead spots. And also, one other hot take: um, I don't see millimeter wave having a meaningful amount of square coverage until we actually get to the point where there's like 250,000 millimeter wave sites.
I don't know if it'll ever get that high. It might, but there's gonna be places where there are no millimeter wave nodes,
True.
right? So like, but the places where they do exist, I think it'll get pretty dense, and I think that's how you probably get to that number, Dennis, that you were suggesting.
I'm just
And just
thinking about.
and by the way, Tim had a comment saying there's only a few cities that have millimeter wave. I think it's approaching 100. So that's not a few.
Yeah, when I talk about the millimeter wave number, I'm just thinking about it like this. You talk about fixed wireless. You're a very big believer in fixed wireless and what it can do, and I'm the starch trying to think about the capacity issue. And I'm just saying, if Verizon wanted fixed wireless to properly replace what their Fios business did, for example, they're gonna need a lot of small cells. I'm talking like for every like 30 houses, there needs to be a small cell for at least every 30 houses that they want to be able to sell the crazy capacity that they want to do that, like say their Fios business could, or what cable will be doing in those areas if that's what Verizon wants to do to compete. And I'm also just thinking about it from the sense of like, you know, think of New York, right? C band is delicious, it's wonderful, and N41 is delicious and wonderful, but even it wasn't enough. T-Mobile still has to deploy small cells, specifically millimeter wave small cells in New York to meet up with all the demand that those people generate. And other cities are also like that. Chicago, Illinois, I know Verizon sometimes struggles a little bit with capacity. They could definitely benefit from having more millimeter wave there in C-band. Denver, Colorado, Verizon, when I was there, they were struggling a little bit. I mean, there's no C-band there, obviously, but I'm just saying, even with the paltry amount of millimeter wave that was there, and I wouldn't call Denver one of the worst millimeter wave cup cities, but like even with the millimeter wave they had deployed there, it was relatively hard to stay stably connected. It wasn't like where you're at in Ohio, and it wasn't like where we were at with Pittsburgh because of how the towers were located. So you're going to have to densify it a heck of a lot more. And the places where Verizon was putting it, there was huge apartment complexes with hundreds of units inside that would easily soak up all the bandwidth that millimeter wave was going to offer, aside from the park that was nearby and everything else that they were putting there. So I'm just saying they really got to invest a lot more to make the coverage both more reliable to connect to and to ensure that the capacity stays there, because it's really easy to suck up 4 gigabits worth of bandwidth. But it actually is.
Hey, big shout out to Steven Smith. Thanks for the super chat. He said AT&T will add more countries for the Elite plan. So he's got faith they're going to extend that list. I know that's music to Moose's ears. And then the most recent super chat, I think, was from Lawrence. Big shout out to him, man. Thanks. And the originator of the hashtag Sneed Army. I see AT&T coming out with a world elite plan, no roaming worldwide. The world is your home. Man, that would be incredible. And actually, I have to agree. If anyone's doing it, I think it is AT&T. And it's going to be an expensive plan or add-on or whatever it is. But, I mean, you're probably right. It would be them. They have those relationships, and they got that juice.
Ace of Sneed. Santiago commented real quick. He said San Jose, California is already starting to slow down even with C-band. It's more than usual, but it's definitely not as fast as when it was at launch.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
population in San Jose is. Anybody can speak to that, but these millimeter wave is crucial. You know, the days of people downplaying millimeter wave, I mean, anybody who has spent any time watching my content has seen what millimeter wave can do. It does not need line of sight. It finds its way indoors. It's incredible for fixed wireless access. It is
Mhm.
amazing at offloading LTE traffic and C-band traffic.
Okay.
It's really, really important. Anybody who downplays it is simply just holding on to the old-fashioned way of thinking that millimeter wave has way too many obstacles to be meaningful. And it's just not the case. The gear today is better. Our handsets are improving. We're going to be getting help in the form of repeaters. I'm not saying that's going to make it 100 times better. I'm saying it's going to improve it. And the densification process is ongoing. There's just no other way to create a true, unbeatable layer of capacity. If you want your midband to stay usable, you're going to need millimeter wave.
Real quick, do you want to know the perfect example for millimeter wave is definitely needed? Amazon warehouses. No, I'm not joking, Sneed.
I
Hear me
know
out.
it. I know. Tim tells us all the time. He shows us those speed tests, right?
I'm
Mhm.
not sure who Tim is, but I will just say that there's an Amazon warehouse that's pretty close to where I live, and T-Mobile has a macro up there for N41, and it's always hands down one of the worst performing cell sites throughout the whole city. It literally there's actually 140 megahertz on air now of N41 on that site, and I'm not joking, Sneed. I kid you not. When that warehouse is going full swing, you'll be lucky to get past 200.
I know. These things happen when you just have that many users on a sector. I mean, heck, Moose, some of those sites in Southern California, they're a
Oh,
nightmare.
dude.
You're literally just driving home from work in LA and
Yep.
you can't even listen to music.
You know, these sectors, some of these sectors in SoCal and in anywhere in California actually are so loaded. 60 megahertz is nothing. 60 megahertz of C-band is going to unload a lot of traffic, yes. But if you're pushing folks at a rate that you are to get 5G capable phones that have C-band, it's just going to be loaded again, right? But so that's why I believe very strongly here by the end of Q3, we'll start seeing band 2, band 4, band 5, band 12, band 13. They're going to be going NR. The writing's on the wall. The new, Nighthawk M6 Pro alludes to every single sub 6 band being NR. Did you see that, Sneed? I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to happen because it's not just C-band that is required. You still need other aggregation, other forms of aggregation for the NR.
All I got to say is this. Don't come back to me 2 years from now when your mid-band channels are congested. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to legit block people on the channel. When you come back complaining about mid-band channels being congested, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your belly aching. I don't want to hear your complaining. The same people who complain about band 13 only sites are the same people telling me that mid-band is the only thing we need. Do not come back to my channel because I don't want to have to say I told you so. I really don't. I'm not that type of person, but millimeter wave is necessary, very necessary. You know what it would be like? It would be like if the NBA just decided after Michael Jordan they were just going to shut it down. Oh, we already got Michael Jordan. That's it. Shut down the NBA. No more games. No more playoffs. No more finals. No more Steph Currys. We don't need LeBrons. We don't need any players. We had Michael Jordan. We're done. Like that. It doesn't make any sense. The technology continues to evolve. It gets better. It gets more capacitive. It gets more capable. Midband is not the end all be all. It is a crucial component of mobile networking. It's one of several technologies that we need to utilize.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I just think they're stuck in this old model of thinking where millimeter wave has too many obstacles to overcome it, and that's just simply not true. It has obstacles, but it is incredibly useful and leveraging it in serious situations where all the other stuff is just going to fail.
I'm just going to say this. The only circumstance in which millimeter wave doesn't become a critical part of a carrier's network is if a carrier has literally like 500 megahertz worth of mid-band spectrum to deploy and put on air. They basically need half a gigahertz worth of spectrum. Because I was touching on this, and Nikki, I was responding to him. He was like, "What's wrong with 200?" The issue isn't that 200 meg isn't good. The
It's
issue is
fine
that
now. What happens a year from now, right?
But more specifically, the issue is that T-Mobile just upgraded it with an additional 40 megahertz of spectrum. So with carrier aggregation, there's 180 megahertz of spectrum on air on that site, and it's only getting 200 today.
What about off peak?
Off peak, so like
does it get the
1
gigabit
a.m.
speed?
Like 1 a.m. it gets like 800 Mbps. Which honestly, that's another story. For 180 megahertz on air to only be getting 800 is kind of but we're getting sidetracked. The point being is that 200 megahertz for 200 megabits per second for 180 megahertz of spectrum on air is not good. That's not good. That was the short of it. And that's today's use case. That's before Amazon decides to buy any more land, hire any more employees. Like, think about when winter comes around, when Amazon hires all those temp workers. There'll be probably like an extra at least 400, 500 people in that warehouse. And I guarantee you that's what pushes it over the edge from going from 200 megabits per second usable to like 20, maybe 10 on that sector.
And there's not much headroom once you get down to that 20 mark. There could be some moments where it's chugging along, man.
You know, Sneed, you're absolutely right, though. I wish in the macros that are like actually right on the freeways, they just add millimeter wave. Just do it already. You know, it's needed.
Dude, honestly, the easiest thing to do, honestly, for millimeter wave deployment is literally put it on like every Costco, every Walmart, every Amazon warehouse, because those are the places that tend to have a ton of people concentrated around them. And those are also the places that already have the fiber in place. You don't even have to worry about running the extra backhaul. It's already there.
Oh, they've got enterprise grade fiber right there.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's a Walmart here close by in DFW that has millimeter wave in a Walmart and a DAS system. And I think that's the future, right? Is that any big warehouse, whether you're Amazon, FedEx, an airport, I mean, damn, Costco, you're going to have an in-building solution to offload all those masses of people trying to get some soda water, some seltzer and some free toilet, or not free, but cheap toilet paper and Costco gas, right? Cheap gas. So that's outside, of course, but you're absolutely right. Millimeter waves needed.
Big shout out to Steven Smith. Thanks for another super chat. Appreciate the support. When will AT&T start to deploy C-band in South Florida? I believe that is ongoing. You should be seeing tower crews upgrading sites as we speak. Be on the lookout. Yeah, look for the ropes up on the tower sites. Look for trucks. Look for vans. Look for new radios and antennas going up on sites. And you should be good to go. They should be hitting stride through this quarter and the rest of the year. We should see a huge change over the next several months. There was a comment from Ricky saying we should have had the 3.1 gigahertz auctioned already. Totally agree. That should have been done. We should have auctioned C-band back in 2018, and it should have been deployed in 2019. This stuff has taken forever. That's, there's a lot of problems with the FCC. They've done a lot of stupid things. The spectrum situation is another one. That's one of the worst things that they did. They neglected to get the right spectrum out there. They auctioned millimeter wave before all the mid-band, which is just crazy. They auctioned CBRS before C-band. Some of the strangest things. Allowing the DoD to muscle their way with all the spectrum. Horrible situation.
Yeah.
So, real quick, two things. Tim said that his fulfillment center employs 5,400 people in that tiny little warehouse, just to
Yeah,
give
it's
people an idea of how many people are in an Amazon fulfillment center. And then the second thing I just want to say, and this is to Chuck's comment, he said Amazon does not care. They don't allow their employees to have phones at work anyways. It's the break times that hit the network. Chuck, I don't know if you've ever worked in any type of like corporate world, but I can promise you your frontline employee doesn't give a damn about the policy. They're going to have their earbuds in, listening to their music or doing whatever it is. Maybe it's the SMT podcast that they're listening to. So there's plenty of reasons why data speeds are really important, not even including the fact for all the reasons that Amazon needs high speeds to connect all their different automated robots and stuff that they have going on to organize stuff within the warehouses. So look, the point of the example was simply that it's not necessarily that you need a city with 1 million people. It's about where those people are concentrated at. And every city tends to have we'll call it industrial area, where large amounts of people congregate in a very dense area where macros just won't be enough. And you need lots of spectrum on air to meet those capacitive needs, both for the consumers that are using their phones in that location and for future enterprise needs. I mean, there is plenty of use cases that have been showcased where having high speed, low latency connectivity is crucial for these companies to run in more efficient manners. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever watched like a video of like an Amazon fulfillment center with like the arms, how they like within like milliseconds know how to stack boxes perfectly to maximize space, but that requires reliable connectivity. Anyway,
all right,
sorry.
gents. Anything for the good of the order as we close out the show? We've already exceeded the 1 hour marker. We're at an hour and a half. Anything else?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on the show, man.
Thanks, Dennis, as always. And Moose, thank you to you, man.
Thank
this
you.
was a Monday Madness with Moose and Dennis. How about that?
The only thing that I wanted to comment on is that Twitter news was huge this morning or this afternoon. Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say. It's huge. We'll leave it at that because oh man, I can't wait to see what happens, man.
Customary claps, Moose, slow and methodical, please.
Musk is definitely smoking one tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Moose. Big shout out to you guys. Big shout out to the live chat. Thank you to everybody, all the moderators. # Mod Squad. # 2Live Crew if you watch this during the live stream edition. # Replay Crew if you're watching this on DVR. Thank you to everybody who donated and offered super chats. You guys are incredible. Thank you for supporting. For everybody that commented in the live chat, you guys are great. Thanks for getting involved and engaging. And we'll probably do at least one more live stream this week. I'm shooting for at least Friday. But if anything big happens, i.e. the T-Mobile earnings, we will be doing that, which I think is Wednesday. All right, big shout out to RF Waves. Thank you, man. So Wednesday, we'll probably do it. Dennis, make yourself available. Moose, can you do that too?
I got you, man. The only day I'm never available is Sundays. So
all right, so yeah, Wednesday, we're gonna do the podcast right after the T-Mobile earnings. They usually do theirs at like 4:30 p.m. Eastern. I don't know. It's like 1:30 p.m. Pacific time in Bellevue. So we'll do it, right? We'll discuss the news of the day. So Ricky's saying he's live at 8:30. All right, Rick. I think what we'll do. Do you guys want to do it early before Ricky's or after Ricky's?
I mean, I prefer early. I mean, I could probably swing like a 6:37 p.m.
All right, let's shoot for a 7 o'clock. Then we'll go till about 8 o'clock or 8:15ish or something like that, and then Ricky can take over for there. What do you guys think?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
All right, good. Okay, Flyboy Rex, hit me on Twitter or email me so I can try to help you with that, and we'll see if we can get it fixed up there, get you back on the Discord. Big shout out to all the patrons. Thanks for the support. Everybody here watching and supporting the channel. We out this piece.